magandang araw and welcome to the Choreo Lab 2021 Virtual Residency. Ako po si Deborah Lemuel, ang inyong host at tagapagtawid, and I will help you navigate through this virtual playing field of discovery. The CCP Choreographers series holds Choreo Lab as a platform for mid-career choreographers to be able to evolve and develop a deeper understanding and appreciation of choreography under the mentorship of certain pioneers in contemporary dance. So this year, Choreo Lab decided to house a virtual residency instead. But in this setup, the choreographers are given new perspective from 4 different fields which they will base their insights and reflections of their choreographic work. And that's our Choreo Lab. Here in this lecture, we will learn how Maceda's processes can help and influence our choreographers in creating or recreating contemporary dance works. Yan ang pagsamba, obra ng pambansang alagad ng sining na si Jose Maceda. Ano ang ambag ni Maceda sa yaman ng ating sining? Sino nga ba siya?
As far as music is concerned, of course, he introduced contemporary music to the Philippines. In a way, he broke the barrier, from neoclassicism. Parang ganun lang ang mga ginagawa before he came in. And he introduced really something totally different. Still attuned with what was going on with the musical world, as contemporary musical world. So more importantly, also, he made Filipinos aware of our own musical culture. Maceda spent the first part of his life as a concert pianist, although he will totally turn around and leave that facet of his life around. He began to focus on ethnomusicology. I think one of the stories there was sometime where he was in Europe. People asked him, "How does your music sound?" And he was at a loss. He did not know how to respond to that. Okay, so as a composer, he trained in musique concrète. This is the early type of electronic music. But in all of his works, it's very consistent in style, applying yung mid-20th century modernist composition elements adapted to Asian context. And give a backgrounder on what was happening in the rest of the world. But I want to bring up only siguro 4 na importanteng schools of thought in music that is relevant to Jose Maceda. One is serialism, the other one is indeterminacy, third is musique concrète, and then the movement of micropolyphony. Okay, so we begin with this movement called serialism. What serialist people wanted to do was to go away from romanticism. Romanticism and its excesses. Gumawa sila ng scheme, which is called the serialist scheme. When you listen to this, notice that number one, there's no melody to speak of. You cannot trace a melody anymore. You cannot follow a melody anymore. Instead, you have detached pitches happening here, there, And yet, each pitch by itself has its own character, specifically an own color. In this way, ang nangyari, he begins to redefine what music space is. The opposite movement is called the movement of indeterminacy or chance. Okay? Itong grupo ng mga taong ito naman, they say, tama na yung trying to control things. So they're saying, look, humanity has always tried to control nature, walang nangyayari. Ang leader ng grupong ito is si John Cage. He has very strong associations with Merce Cunningham Dance Company. The point here, bakit indeterminacy, bakit chance, the composer does not have any control of what will happen to the composition. Okay. Musik concrete, tape recordings ito, tape recorded music. When the tape recorder came in, fascinating for this new composers who were looking for new sound. What they did was they played around with the recordings of anything, recordings of noise, recordings of music, recordings of everyday life. And they spliced that, they sped it up, they stack it one after the other, and so on. So, kaya sinabing concrete because they're actually working with the sound itself. Okay, finally, the other style I want to present to you is called micropolyphony. They see composition as in a macro sense, no, comprised of very minute details, but together create sound masses. Imagine a cloud. No, you don't see the individual atoms of the gas, of the vapor, but you see the cloud formation. Parang ganon. Okay, back to Maceda. No, his main ideas are, one, a critique of Western technology. He says, oh, that idea is not applicable to us in Southeast Asia because we don't have all these computers. What we have here, sabi niya, is people. The idea is instead of technology replacing people, you use people and you use a systematic division of labor to be able to accomplish a task. Okay. He is also looking at Asian culture, the Asian life, particularly the village life, and the different concepts of time associated with Asian villages. So, baliwala yung clock time na per hour. The features of the music in the region, in Southeast Asia and the Philippines, that intrigued him a lot is this idea of dualism. Wala tayong melody and wala tayong harmony or counterpoint. And the key features of his works are, of course, the use of Philippine or Asian sonority. And to be able to do that, he focused on Philippine and Asian instruments. Pero, like the previous guys that we heard, he also deals with sound masses and shapes. Kaya lang, parang tinranspose niya into this Philippine setting. In that manner, he also uses micropolyphony. Also, another feature of his work is loops or repetition. Para ding tape music, ano? And then intentional randomness. Because of that, you don't feel the beat o wala ring rhythmic or melodic unison. Instead, you have these sound masses that going on at the same time. And most of his pieces really work with space, physical space, so that the sound, he writes it in a way that the sound travels in space. Here in Pagsamba in 1968, he writes the Mass, no? The Catholic Mass. Pero ito, site-specific. He wrote it for the UP Chapel, and he has a floor plan. And so he wrote it in such a way that yung music would flow around. Can you imagine being there inside the chapel when all of this is happening? So this is immersive art, site-specific immersive art. Ang isang importanteng aspect nito, depending on where you're sitting in the chapel, you will perceive the whole thing differently. Okay, the score looks something like that. It's huge, so 100 whistles. Okay, and this is what we mean by micropolyphony. Look how many lines there, but you won't be able to follow each line. But look, this is the way he structures it.
I'm amazed sa process ni Maceda. It's so brilliant. Do you think mako-consider po na decolonial yung ginawang practice ni Maceda sa composition niya?
Yeah, I think so. Tama ka, inappropriate niya the very idea of writing music is foreign, di ba? That's a Western. Very idea of composing, right? Pero ang nakakatuwa, nag-a-appropriate din yung West, like sila John Cage. This is the way they think Zen Buddhism is, and so on. And here's Maceda using their structures, but writing it from a perspective of an Asian, of a Filipino. The next composition was Ugnayan, okay, which was underwritten by Imelda Marcos. It was written for 20 radio stations. It was the second New Year of the new society of martial law. Bawal ang paputok. So sabi nila, instead na magpaputok, punta kayo sa barangay center, sa plaza, magdala kayo ng transistor radio. Bawat isang transistor radio nakatune sa isang iba-ibang station. Each station would play a track. So 20 tracks yan. And to be able to realize it, people should come in with their transistor radios. So pre-recorded ito, pero involve yung mga tao kasi hindi mo ma-realize kung walang taong dumating na may 20 radios. Although these are bamboo and sticks and gongs, ayan, ito yung instrumentation. They sound electronic in a way, no? Yung next piece, para ding Ugnayan. So Ugnayan was written for radio station. Yung susunod, for 100 cassette players. So ang ginawa niya, nag-record siya ng 100 tracks. Tapos pagpasok mo sa venue, dapat may dala kang cassette player. Nalala niyo, uso dati yung cassette player, yung boombox. And then you're given a cassette. And then you play it, and you move around the venue, depende sa presentation.
Yung nabanggit ni Sir Verne, no, yung when people carried yung mga transistor radios, parang nagbabago ngayon yung pananaw na, oo nga, so ano nga yung output? Ito ba talaga yung output? Or depende, or people, hindi na lang siya site-specific, but person-specific na lang siya.
We will see in the next few examples, mag-iiba yung notation ni Maceda. But basically, pareho pa rin yung tunog. Na-realize niya, kahit pala hindi ganito ka-specific, meron siyang another way, which is more abbreviated, ganun pa rin yung tunog. Okay, this is adding. This is the new score now. The way these scores move is from top to bottom. Para siyang kalendaryo. Okay? Tapos, ito lang ang gagawin nila. Paulit-ulit lang na ganyan. And this is his score now. More minimalist, more abbreviated. But basically, pareho rin yung tunog.
It's more of me questioning or, wanting to look into the idea of dance and scoring. Works ni Maceda makes me want to go that beyond simply, dictating people or dancers na, sige, dito ka, dun ka, ito yung movement mo at this count. But it's also wanting to be able to design a dance visually written the way he did it, yung pag-layer niya, parang gusto ko siyang gawin. Gusto ko siyang i-art din yung paper na yon.
Yung indeterminacy, yung chance school, sari-saring notation makikita mo dyan. Merong mga notations nila parang painting. Marami ng iba-ibang klaseng score. Hindi naman importante yung notation eh. No, yung notation is a tool para ma-achieve mo yung gusto mong ma-achieve. But tama noon, namamangha ako sa mga choreographer kasi paano nila naaalala lahat yun? Hindi naman kayo lahat naglalaban notation. Paano nyo ang dami-daming levels, for example? Paano nyo maaalala kung anong ginagawa ng isa doon? No? Pero kayo naaalala nyo lahat. So noon, manghang-mangha ako talaga doon.
Some of Maceda's other works include Aroding, 1983. Colors Without Rhythm for Western Instruments, 1992. In the same vein, his power in composition continued with his explorations with other pieces like Udlot Udlot, 1975. And I also want to emphasize that this piece in particular was one of those that was able to stand the test of time as it also went virtual through Zoom technology. Udlot Udlot went virtual 2020.
Let's hear a bit of the et al. So these are the, I'll just be very quick. These are the people, composers that came after him.
Yeah, it's so, yung nilagay ko dito, it's so brutal, so specific, and very, yun nga, laborious, hard work on using what we have as a people, as a country.
Mga tao talaga yung mga instrumento, which I find it very inspiring.
For me, I found it valuable yung paggawa niya ng score, how methodological it is. Pero hindi siya super fixed. Like, may allowance for randomness or improvisation and chance.
In response to this lecture, the choreographers were also asked to create their own way of plotting or notating their own choreographic process. Tingnan natin kung paano nila in-explore at pinaglaruan ang konsepto ng notation para makahanap ng iba pang paraan kung paano gumawa ng sayaw.
The exercise that I did, I used to call it the choreography map, or it could also be a movement map. And it is an old tendency of mine to draw, to sketch a choreography or phrase or the space.
Tago-taguan, maliwanag ang buwan. Pagbilang kung 10, nakatago na kayo. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Sherwin maps his character's past as it impinges on the present. Jared took on a different approach to capturing his concept. It was mainly about transformation. In an attempt to transcribe old work that was about the invocation ritual for reclamation of power, Sasa prepared an outline of exercises for the participating performers, which included dancers, chanters, and instrumentalists. As for Al Garcia, he took his own version of the Benesh movement notation to capture his own process.
I am a contemporary dance choreographer now working here in Taiwan for a contemporary folkloric dance company. Maceda inspired me to find my identity in my art as I navigate both Filipino and Taiwanese cultures. Here are 3 gestures from Taiwanese Sign Language. Wo, me, go, where. I, go, where. And a traditional Taiwanese dance step. And this is from our own Philippine folk dance. Arms open to the side. Here, I tried to combine the gestures into a phrase. I needed to strip down movement to its essence, and this is what happened. I am still in transit. This is me now. I do not speak their language here, and movement is how I communicate. This is now my speech. This is my dance.
How do you do micropolyphony in choreography? You can do it online now. See how many screens can you divide this thing into? More than 100. That could be micro. Makikita mo yung score ni Maceda. You can do that in movement.
Ang mga likha ni Maceda, emphasized through his unique style of composing, brought together body, space, and time to create music. Na applicable rin ito sa proseso ng paglikha ng sayaw.